Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back to the Fantasy Headliners. Kyle back with some ADP risers and fallers. Now, obviously, redraft leagues have not started yet. The only people doing drafts right now are rookie drafts, or startup drafts for dynasty leagues. So we've got a while before we're going to have to start worrying about some redraft ADP. So this is something I want to do all off-season long. Right now, it's really in terms of value. Whose value is fluctuating, and who are we seeing with fluctuating value that could cause their ADP to change more by the time we get to redraft season? Now, one good way for us to measure this over the offseason is best ball leagues. You know, people who are out there drafting best ball leagues right now are doing a lot of those in kind of a redraft style. Those don't normally happen in dynasty leagues. They're doing them more in a redraft style. So that mindset, that drafting focus is what goes into it. So it allows us to see some ADP over the offseason that might actually kind of match what we're getting ready to see for the year. But hey, before I jump into all the information, don't forget you can pre-order the draft guide right now at thefantasyheadliners.com. Last year, over 600 pages of pure fantasy football bliss. It's going to be just as big this year, ladies and gentlemen. Don't miss out on getting your copy the day that it drops. Pre-order now at thefantasyheadliners.com. So I've got three players first up to talk about, and they're all from the same team. And right now, the thing that's really causing the ADP to fluctuate and the value to fluctuate is the potential trade rumors that include Julio Jones. Right now, Julio Jones, again, they're talking about it, right? We heard the other day him saying, oh, I'm out of here. Nothing's been done yet. He said that he wants to go to New England. Lots of different things can happen with Julio Jones, but it is causing that ADP and that value to fluctuate a lot right now. Julio Jones, he's dropping mainly for a couple of different reasons. The first reason being people, are worried about age, but people have been worried about Julio Jones' age for what seems like his entire career. Honestly, as far back as I can remember, people are like, oh, I'm not drafting Julio this year. This is the year that he falls off. It's really weird. I don't think I've ever seen a wide receiver treated like this. Even Calvin Johnson in his heyday, nobody was ever talking about, oh, this guy, I'm going to skip on him this year. This could be the year that things go to crap. The thing with Julio Jones is he hasn't missed a whole lot of time over the course of his career. Yes, he's had some stints where he's missed time, but it just seems like he's consistently banged up. And I think that's what has kind of wore on some people over the last few years, because we get into Friday, Saturday, and we're like, oh my God, do I start Julio? Do I need to worry about him? What do I do with that? So that's really been the issue with him, is what are we doing with Julio? And I think that's starting to just wear thin with some owners, and they're like, you know what? I'm not even going to deal with that. I'm going to go with someone else. And number two is, where is he actually going to end up? I mean, it seems like at this point he's going to be traded. It seems like at this point he is going to be moved from Atlanta, but where does he go to? That's the thing. New England comes up. Do we really want him to go play with Cam Newton? Two of the teams that have the most cap space in the league to actually take on Julio's contract would be the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets. Are those teams that we'd want him to see him go to? If he were to go to like Tennessee would be a great fit for him. San Francisco, we'd like to see San Francisco. But if you go to San Francisco, this is still a team that's going to run the football a lot. And not only that, but you've got Debo there, you've got Ayuk there, and how long is Jimmy G the starter for? So does that concern you? So because of that, because of all that uncertainty, right now Julio Jones is looking like he's going to be maybe like a late second round pick, which might be the latest that you've ever been able to get him in a fantasy draft. And depending where he goes to, let's say he does end up in New England, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up falling all the way to the third round, honestly, with how deep wide receiver is, especially with a lot of the guys you can get at the top this year. It wouldn't surprise me to see Julio fall into the third round. But what does that do for Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley? I saw some people talking about Calvin Ridley and was like, well, Calvin Ridley is going to get all those double teams and stuff. You have to remember, Julio Jones missed some time last year, and in those games that Julio Jones missed, Calvin Ridley was still a beast. I mean, he had 3 top 10 weeks in the weeks that Julio Jones missed. He was overall still a wide receiver 1 during the weeks that Julio Jones missed. So this kind of evolving sense of Calvin Ridley can't handle his own really is overblown. Now, I'm not going that route. Okay, Calvin Ridley, if Julio Jones is moved to me, Calvin Ridley, he moves into that top tier of players. Okay, he moves into that top tier of where we're talking about Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. Calvin Ridley moves into that. So that top tier of wide receivers that we're talking about taking like in the early mid first round or mid to late first round, depending on how you like to draft, Calvin Ridley really gets into there. He becomes a first round pick for me. I think probably you were going to be able to get him about mid second round, but if Julio Jones is traded, I think you're gonna have to take him in the first round if you want to get a hold of him. And Kyle Pitts, I mean, this is a guy that obviously everybody is already excited for, right? Okay, everybody's excited for Kyle Pitts. However, if there's no Julio Jones and all you have is really Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley as the main pass catchers there, dear God, his ADP is going to fly. I honestly would not be surprised if Kyle Pitts was taken in the late second, early third round. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that, and I'm not saying that's where I would want him to go. I'm just saying that's what people are going to do. That's what people are going to do. I mean, it's going to be a lot like CEH last year, remember? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, people were freaking out. If you wanted to get him, you had to overpay for him, and people started taking him in the mid-first round. Kyle Pitts, after Travis Kelce comes off the board, after George Kittle, after Darren Waller, Kyle Pitts becomes that tight end 4 at that point. I did a poll on Twitter the other day, and it was 76% in favor of Kyle Pitts over TJ Hawkinson. Holy! Whoo! Wow. Okay. That's a bit much. That's a bit much for me. I get it. I understand it. But that's where we're going to get into, where people are going to be saying, oh, man, I really want Kyle Pitts. I'm going to have to jump on him early. And when everybody starts doing that, they start going a lot earlier than what they should be. So it wouldn't surprise me if people took him over George Kittle with as many injury issues that George Kittle has had over the last couple of years. If people didn't try to take Pitts over George Kittle, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Kyle Pitts was the tight end too. In some leagues, honestly, it would not catch me off guard at all. He could go right after Travis Kelce. And you know what? I don't know if I would argue with you. It's not my cup of tea. I'm not going to do it, right? But if you are like, man, I really got to have Kyle Pitts, you're going to have to probably take him pretty early. So the Atlanta Falcons are full of tons of value change right now because of the Julio Jones situation. We don't know what's going to happen with them. James Robinson is interesting. And to me, his ADP is actually kind of back on the rise a little bit, which seems odd to say. During the offseason, everyone was like, oh, we're getting on the James Robinson bandwagon, which first off, if you're just waiting till the offseason to try and get James Robinson shares, you're doing this whole thing wrong, okay? You've waited far too long. And then, so people are trying to get their hands on him. And then we get here to the NFL draft, and they spend a first round pick on Travis Etienne, and James Robinson, his stock plummets, right? Well, then now we have rookie minicamp show up, and rookie minicamp happens, and all of a sudden you hear Travis Etienne is getting all of his work at wide receiver and rookie minicamp. Well, now all of a sudden everyone is back on board with, oh, well, if Travis Etienne is going to be running out in the slot, or is going to be running out at wide receiver, if they're going to be doing all these things with him, that means James Robinson's just going to be fine. So his value is actually starting to climb again because people are starting to talk themselves back into James Robinson because they don't think Travis Etienne is going to be getting as many touches out of the backfield. They think he's going to be getting touches elsewhere. Here's the thing. It's rookie minicamp. There's not a whole lot you can do as like a running back by yourself, okay? I mean, these are rookie minicamp is for you to improve on some things, to get in front of some of your coaches for the first time. I mean, it's to do some different things. It's not to set anything in stone. So yeah, why not use him as a pass catcher? Why not put him out there and make him run some routes and see what he can do? That's great. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the number one James Robinson truther, okay? If there's anybody out there that tries to tell you that they're a bigger truther than I am, you tell me where they are, where they live. I'm going to show up there at their house, and I'm going to give them the old slap across the face with a glove and challenge them to a duel. Because listen, okay, I wrote an article in May of last year talking about James Robinson, and if Leonard Fournette were to go, this is a guy you got to get, okay? So the crystal ball popped out early on that one. I love James Robinson, but even as the number one James Robinson truther, I understand that you just spent a first-round draft pick on a guy that fits Urban Meyer's scheme a lot better. James Robinson's ADP might be back on the rise. His value might be back on the rise. But I am not getting tricked by the Travis Etienne news that he's running a lot of routes at wide receiver. He's not going to run that many routes at wide receiver. That's not going to happen. That's where they're putting him at right now because it's rookie minicamp, and that's how it happens, ladies and gentlemen. So just be careful of that ADP because it's climbing for James Robinson. Raheem Mostert, his ADP is probably going to climb as well now, okay? You could also throw Trey Sermon into the mix too. Okay, Trey Sermon and Raheem Mostert, both of their ADPs are going to rise. I would not be surprised if by the end of draft season, if Trey Sermon wasn't going higher than Raheem Mostert. You know, the one thing I want to remind you with Raheem Mostert is, yeah, he's had some injury issues. Okay, I mean, he has missed some time. He is not your prototypical number one running back. Okay, but he is a home run hitter. He has shown in this offense the dude can touch the ball and go anywhere at any point in time. Now, a lot of people, are worried, injury. I mean, the guy's an injury. But in 2019, I mean, he played in 16 games. He wasn't hurt in 2019. He was just fine. In 2020, yeah, he missed 8 games. But in 2019, he was just fine. So if you were to say and honestly, before that, 2017, 2018, he was really low on the depth chart. I mean, he was a guy that wasn't really getting any touches or anything. He was a guy that was just coming out every once in a while. But listen, the dude, his career average is 5.6 yards per attempt. He averaged 7.7 on 34 attempts in 2018. 5.6 on 137 in 2019, and 5 on 104 in 2020. When the guy touches the ball, he has the opportunity to go anywhere on the field at any point in time. Trey Sermon's going to get touches. He is. But he's the shiny new toy, ladies and gentlemen. It happens every draft season. These guys get drafted, and we want to get super excited about them, and sometimes they hit, and sometimes they don't. And Trey Sermon is a good fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense. But Raheem Mostert is the guy that if you put in, he's going to have the highest ceiling every single week. He might not have the best floor, okay? Sermon might at some point get a little bit more carries, especially if the 49ers are leading. But Mostert is the guy that, again, is going to take it to the house at any point in time. You can't forget about that. And his ADP is probably going to climb a little bit, and so will Sermon's with no Jeffrey Wilson to start the year. But, I mean, the guys right now, Mostert, you're getting maybe 6th or 7th round. Sermon, you might be getting in the double digits right now, around 10. Both of these guys are going to come up a little bit, okay? So keep an eye on that. But if come draft season, their ADPs haven't moved that much, and you can get Mostert still in that 6 to 7, but maybe Trey Sermon is the one that has come up, and now Sermon is sitting in the 6th round, then at that point you have to make a decision on who you believe will have the best opportunity any given week. So there's just a little bit of an update with the risers and fallers, what we're seeing in terms of value fluctuation right now, reading the market in terms of fantasy football and drafting and trading and all of that. This is something we want to start doing a little bit more often and getting these ADP risers and fallers in a little bit earlier in the offseason, because then that will allow us to kind of give you a sense of what we're seeing in the industry and what we're seeing, because a lot of people that are drafting right now are a lot of people that work in the industry, or analysts and things like that, and we're having conversations with those people, and to us, we're kind of seeing some things on the inside right now that are going to start on the inside and work their way out. So as we're seeing and hearing these things, we're kind of trying to pass this knowledge on to you, so you have a little bit more of a heads up of it. So as we get closer to draft season, you know how some of these values have fluctuated throughout the offseason. But ladies and gentlemen, before you get out of here, hit that like button for me and subscribe to the channel if you are new here to the Fantasy Headliners and become a part of Headliner Nation. And in the comments below, who is somebody for you right now who you think their value is fluctuating a lot? Or give me somebody that you think, in terms of their ADP, who's going to be a really good value for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to get out of here. Appreciate you all tuning into this episode of the Fantasy Headliners. Don't forget, go pre-order your draft guide. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.